This is from Science Alert. Universal basic income could double the world's GDP and slash emissions. What if we could keep everyone out of poverty while also tackling the climate crisis? It sounds too good to be true, but it could be possible with a universal basic income scheme funded by taxing carbon emissions, a new study shows. The new research, led by a team from the University of British Columbia in Canada, shows UBI could not only improve living standards, but also boost global gross domestic product, a standard measure of economic prosperity. We suggest that basic income implementation is feasible and could be a potent tool in addressing the twin challenges of decreasing worldwide poverty while reducing environmental degradation. The downside of UBI is that it costs an awful lot. According to the researchers, the companies that pollute the environment could pay for it because taxing carbon emissions alone would generate about $2.3 trillion a year. Environmental damage and poverty both pose huge risks to society, says economist Yusuf Rashid from the University of British Columbia. By requiring that major polluters pay to clean up their own messes, or the polluter pays principle, you have a creative approach to address both issues. Worldwide basic income would lead to a boost in global GDP of 163 trillion, or 130%, the researchers estimate. To put it in another way, every dollar spent on UBI generates up to $7 in economic impact, as that money gets spent on food, rent, and other goods. Our findings show a positive economic impact to cost ratio for basic income implementation across all scenarios examined, the team wrote in their published paper. Previous research has linked similar schemes with environmental benefits too. The environmental tax would encourage more eco-friendly policies, the team suggests, although to be sustainable long term, it would need to transition to other funding sources. Another potential benefit of UBI would be making communities more resilient. When a crisis comes, be it a natural disaster or global pandemic, it wouldn't be as disruptive or damaging if there was a safety net for people's livelihoods. So why isn't UBI in place already? It would require a lot of political will and agreement, and there remain questions over the extent to which it would de-incentivize work and innovation on top of the concerns of how it would be funded. Tax the rich, motherfuckers. To lower the huge barrier imposed by implementation costs, we suggest a diverse array of strategies aimed at financing basic income, the authors argued. This is from The Guardian. Money for nothing. Is universal basic income about to transform society? The concept of a guaranteed income is gaining traction as a solution to the impact of AI and a way to encourage more rewarding and socially valuable work. When Eleanor O'Donovan found out she had been randomly selected to participate in a basic income pilot scheme, she couldn't believe her luck. In return for a guaranteed salary of just over 1,400 euros a month from the Irish government, all the 27-year-old artist had to do was fill out a biannual questionnaire about her well-being and how she spends her time. It was like winning the lottery. I was in such disbelief, she says. The income, which she will receive until September 2025, has enabled her to give up temping and focus instead on her art. It covers my living expenses, my rent, food, and day-to-day stuff. The concept of a guaranteed basic income might seem novel or neurotic, but it dates back to 1795 when the American founding father Thomas Paine suggested a national fund should pay every adult, rich or poor, a ground rent of £10 a year until the age of 50. Earth is the common property of the human race, he argued. So everyone has been collectively dispossessed by the introduction of the system of landed property and was entitled to compensation. Today, as artificial intelligence learns from the collective intellectual and creative outputs of humans and uses this to dispossess workers of their livelihoods, the idea of universal basic income as a possible solution is gaining traction. We are seeing the most disruptive force in history, Tesla founder and ex-formerly Twitter owner Elon Musk said last year. Before speculating, there will come a point where no job is needed. You can have a job if you want one for personal satisfaction, but AI will do everything. The counter-argument is that although AI could replace a range of jobs, it will also create new roles, including oversight of AI decision-making, known as human in the loop. Yet for many workers, the advance of AI continues to be alarming. In March, after analyzing 22,000 tasks in the UK economy, covering every type of job, a model created by the Institute of Public Policy Research predicted that 59% of tasks currently done by humans, particularly women and young people, could be affected by AI in the next 3 to 5 years. In the worst case scenario, this would trigger a jobs apocalypse where 8 million people lose their jobs in the UK alone. UBI would provide a vital safety net. Under capitalism, you need money to survive. It's that simple, says Dr. Neil Howard, an international development social protection researcher at the University of Bath. He and his team have helped to develop basic income pilots around the world, and like Thomas Paine, he believes that a redistribution of the privatized resources of all human beings is inherently just and is inherently based. Howard likens the large language models of AI that rely on the aggregated collection of human knowledge to the enclosure of the commons, which began in the 1600s and privatized most of England's common land. The commonwealth of the world and of humanity should by rights belong to all of us, says Howard. It has been appropriated by the few, and that leads the many to either have to struggle to survive or simply not be effective at all, so there's justice underpinning the claim of UBI. Contrary to expectations, he says, it wouldn't necessarily lead to people doing less work. It would enable them to do better work or to invest their time in more socially useful activities. This argument is backed up by the 2020 study conducted by researchers at Utrecht University in the Netherlands. It found that unemployed individuals who were previously in receipt of benefits increased their participation in the labor market after they were given a basic income for 3 years. Rather than opting for insecure work, taking any job they could get to fulfill the conditions imposed upon them by the benefit system, they were more likely to find and accept a long-term, well-paid job. They also took on more work. Humans need to do work that feels valuable psychologically, says Cleo Goodman, a UBI expert at the think tank Autonomy. It's baked into us. It's complete nonsense to suggest that there's a faction of society that just wants to sit around on the sofa all day, drinking beer and watching TV. We want to spend a fair amount of time doing something that makes us proud. She believes that everyone has the potential to find their niche, work they're good at, that gives their life meaning and purpose. For example, she believes that if UBI was available, people would do more creative and charitable work. The kind of work that it's now very difficult to make an income from is the kind of work that I think people would move to in droves. And I think that would be positive for society. This is particularly true of care work and parenting, says Goodman. People shouldn't be punished for making those choices. Socially and economically, that work is valuable. But at the moment, economically, it is not valued. Salaries for work that is essential but unattractive would need to rise if a UBI scheme was introduced. We'd have to recognize the people that are doing the work in the sewers and cleaning the streets, and they're doing incredibly important jobs that we should be grateful for, says Goodman. So they should be compensated in a fair way. I think more people would be happy to get their hands dirty if they were being paid fairly. Research on the impact on participants of pilots in places with similar economies to the UK is so overwhelmingly positive that he suggests the resistance in government must be ideological. So until there's quite a radical change in thinking in Westminster, nothing can change really anywhere in the UK. But AI may be the impetus for this radical change in thinking, especially if massive job losses do occur. One view is that basic income has to happen because to continue, businesses need people to have money. People need to have an income they can spend on goods and services. So if you're taking a lot of income out of the economy with people losing their jobs, then that's a problem. It's not just economists who think a UBI scheme will be necessary in the future. Professor Geoffrey Hinton, a computer scientist generally regarded as the godfather of AI, is among those advocating for it. I was consulted by people in Downing Street, and I advised them that UBI was a good idea, he told the BBC in May. He fears AI will destroy jobs and increase productivity. It's going to increase the gap between rich and poor, he said. Darrell West, author of The Future of Work, AI, Robots, and Automation, says that just as policy innovations were needed in Thomas Paine's time to help people transition from an agrarian to an industrial economy, they are needed today as we transition to an AI economy. There is a risk that AI is going to take a lot of jobs, he says. A basic income could help navigate that situation. AI's impact will be far-reaching, he predicts, affecting blue and white-collar jobs. It's not just going to be entry-level people who are affected. And so we need to think about what this means for the economy, what it means for society as a whole. What are people going to do if robots and AI take a lot of the jobs? Neil Watson, a futurist who focused on AI ethics, has a more pessimistic view. She believes we are witnessing the dawn of an age of AI companies, corporate environments where very few, if any, humans are employed at all. Instead, at these companies, lots of different AI sub-personalities will work independently on different tasks, occasionally hiring humans for bits and pieces of work. These AI companies have the potential to be enormously more efficient than human businesses, driving almost everyone out of business, apart from a small selection of traditional old businesses that somehow stick in there because their traditional methods are appreciated. Watson speculates that only jobs that require human interaction, like hospital chaplains and care workers, or involve complex and physical tasks like plasters, plumbers, and hairdressers, will need to be done by humans in the future. As a result, she thinks it could be AI companies, not governments, that end up paying people a basic income. AI companies, meanwhile, will have no salaries to pay because there are no human beings in the loop. The profits and dividends of this company could be given to the needy. This could be a way of generating support income in a way that doesn't need the state welfare. It's fully compatible with capitalism. It's just that AI is doing it. I think we need to be calling for basic income on the basis of sense of shared morality because economic insecurity is grim. It's empirically damaging and it's based on historical injustices that are translated into present inequalities. So there's a very strong case for redistributive basic income right now, irrespective of whether or not the machines are coming.